Yeah, sure.
Cool. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Monthly ongoing series for train the trainer approach for impact executives and professionals and leaders around the world. We've been diving into and basically breaking out tools that are available for people to be able to utilize to amplify their impact in whatever category of impact makes sense to them. And these universal tools are being, we're really diving into these 1 month at a time and really going across the process of getting deep into what these tools mean for movement building, and a lot of times really bringing successes from the entrepreneurial world and from around AI and from around, kind of a lot of different things that are working around the world and bringing them to the table, applying them to movement building and seeing kind of where we go from there. Last week, we went through basically a reintroduction to the AI course that we developed, which is located at shannondobbs.com/notebook-primer. And we got into not just how to open up a new Notebook LM account, but also how to utilize the information and the tools that are in that AI process to be able to support video generation and other uh, processes for explaining what it is that you're trying to do on the ground. This month, or excuse me, this week, we're coming back around and taking the opportunity to really break down real world situations and take an opportunity to kind of see what these tools mean when they're applied. So let's
Okay.
get into it.
Yeah.
Well, let us get into it. Did we get any questions coming in from anyone outside of here?
I didn't see anything coming
I
in.
didn't see
We
anything.
are kind of ramping up our marketing capability, and we're all kind of learning as we go along. So it's
Okay.
exciting and it's new, and every one of us comes with deep knowledge about information. But one of the knowledge that we didn't come with was advanced video editing and all the crazy stuff. So we're still working our way into getting the recordings out. We are putting these recordings and this information into our membership space on Go High Level. And this is an opportunity for people to come in and really catch up on what we've already submitted, meet others that are in the work that are looking for strategies and tools, and really kind of co-creating a solution moving forward. So if anybody's seeing this and is interested, we are at ria.earth. So ria.earth stands for Regenerative Impact Alliance. We're a US-based 501c3 nonprofit organization focused on research and development education, specifically focused on the impact sector.
Okay. So I do have a question, and this is just more of a clarifying question for anybody that's watching this. Um, the people that we serve, who are we serving? And this might be a good one for Barry or Shannon as to what are the organizations that can benefit by partnering with us or even becoming members or following with us in this impact world?
Well, speaking from my perspective personally, because this is the thing that I think is really cool about Regenerative Impact Alliance, is that we are a train the trainer approach. This is a peer kind of aligned approach coming at people from the side and from, hey, we've been in your seat and we've been in your shoes and we've operated on the ground. And so this is a long legacy for me. I was a team leader in the US Army back in the mid 90s. And we had an approach of train the trainer as like, the non-commissioned officers would train the privates. The officers would basically come down and say, here's what we're trying to do. And then us working folks would basically figure things out, right? Well, fast forward 30 years, and we've largely, as a community, as a society, lost the ability to just figure things out. We've got so many people in sustainability. We've got so many people that are working through the 4-year degree cycle in order to come at these challenges that we're dealing with in food system and climate and so many different areas, that we've lost that operator conversation of how does things actually work. So what I'm bringing to the table as the Fellowship of Living Systems and as me personally is a deep understanding of how things actually work on the ground, how logistics work, supply chain economics, cold chain management, retail, processing, like part of the regenerative movement that we haven't really been able to have deep conversations about up until now. So that's my provenance. That's what I'm bringing to the table. And what I'm excited about Regenerative Impact Alliance is it allows us to take a step back from the on the ground, hey, I'm serving the public, and really look at the upstream element of how do we take care of our trainers? How do we take care of our practitioners and our leaders on the ground? And how do we support their effort and amplify their efforts rather than us trying to grow as an organization to be able to do direct service to the public? If that makes sense, that's kind of where I'm coming with all this.
Awesome. Barry, same
Yeah,
question
just
for you.
yeah, it's all about the minds, the individuals, the teams that are committed to really making positive impact. How we can pool our knowledge, our resources, our expertise, our experiences to help amplify uh, the work that needs to be done out there, so that makers aren't left feeling like they have to navigate this space alone or without support. And really, this is part of the pulse of the Regenerative Impact Alliance and why we exist.
Okay. So, Barry, could you give us a little background of where you're coming from? I know you're based in Trinidad, um, but like just so that people understand why you joined us and who you are and how you can support them in building their work or their movements.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. Was busy. Well, I have just put everybody's LinkedIn and Ria's LinkedIn links in the chat. So for those catching this recording later on, you can copy the chat and get all our contacts. Uh, Cheryl and I are in Trinidad, the southernmost islands of the Caribbean, and we run Baseline Creative Partners as a family-run company whose primary mission is to empower new and aspiring entrepreneurs uh, in launching, building teams around, and scaling impactful businesses. I come from a business coaching background, a finance background, and a broadcasting background. So I've pulled all those three layers or elements together to bring a unique spin on how I serve. Cheryl, my wife, she is uh, an art teacher, a teacher
Yeah.
of art
We can
teachers.
we can have Cheryl
She
introduce herself as well, right,
I
Cheryl?
like, yeah, she can turn, but I like talking about my wife. So give me
I
a
know
second.
you do.
Yeah. So, and she really brings that clarity on how to transform education, not just in the artistic realm, but education as a whole, into the space where people learning can take the knowledge and get real work done, make real differences in their space. And I'm mentioning this because this is why it was a no-brainer. It was her idea, and it really was a no-brainer for us to bring our unique skill sets together into one entity. And that's where Baseline Creative Partners comes from. And another no-brainer was once I got to meet you and Shannon and understand the synergies in our own viewpoints and mission statements. It was another no-brainer to join this team and amplify each other's work. All right, I'll shut up now.
It's okay. I'm gonna let Cheryl introduce herself, but I think you did an amazing job.
Well, yes, and I thank you, Barry, for your wonderful introduction. And I have nothing else to add except part of my training is in measurement, educational measurement. So besides being an artist, a teacher, I come equipped to with quality assurance,
Mm.
ensuring that whatever we put out in terms of education and the whatever your end goal is, it's met, it's reliable, it's valid. So that's where one of my babies lie, educational measurement.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's really important to see this synergy too, because Cheryl, you and Raksha both come from kind of the institutional background, the, kind of familiarity with large scale institutions. I've touched a little bit of that in the military, but really it is a completely different mindset from the entrepreneurial background, and really just kind of that on the ground feel that I come from. And so I see kind of some resonance on my side with Barry's approach. And I also see kind of just glimpses of where you two come from. And a lot of our conversations as we've gone through have been about how do we weave these perspectives together and how do we create a synthesis approach. Love it.
Exactly.
Right. So I'll tell a little bit about myself. I got involved in this because regeneration and sustainability are one of my passions. More so since I became a grandparent and then realized the footprint that we were leaving behind for the future generations. And this was a no-brainer. I've heard Barry and Shannon speak on multiple platforms, and the synergy was just there, right? My background is compliance. I'm all about structuring, optimization, and systems in place, along with how to make it sustainable for everyone. So I'm a little eclectic, you could say. I just love learning things, and that's what I bring to the table is a different viewpoint of how we can implement something in our daily lives. Um, because it all starts with a small step. And I think RIA gives us the opportunity to start with a small step and then grow it into a partnership or collaborations with other partners who have the same synergy. And for that, we do need to have structures and stuff in place. Otherwise, it creates confusion. And I love taking confusion away from people so they can focus on what they want to do. But that's just a little bit about where I come from, where my passions lie. Um, but this is amazing because RIA has a vision that a lot of large foundations have, but just haven't found a way to communicate with each other. And I'm hoping to be that bridge that can connect those organizations so that we can create um, measurable impact, right? Impact has become a buzzword in the last few years. Sustainability, climate change, we're all concerned about all of that. But I think in this room, between the four of us, we have enough combined knowledge to make it actually get implemented and see the results in real life. So I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited about these monthly Q&As where people can just come with their questions and or information. You know, they may have an event going on that they want to share with us. So I'm just, what was that, Shannon?
I just saw somebody pop in for our Q&A. Maurice Palmer, how are you? Welcome.
Maurice?
Hello. All right. Well, we'll catch up with you once you get back to the camera. This is a great opportunity. We've taken an opportunity to really introduce each of the board members, but I do want to take a moment to really kind of recognize the prominence that Regenerative Impact Alliance is bringing in from a previous nonprofit organization that I co-founded a decade ago up in Northern Nevada called On Common Ground. On Common Ground was sunsetted in 2022, a year after I moved here to Colorado. And after kind of the board ended up, going its own way and dissolving, I had moved to Mexico and retired, and there was a whole backstory involved. But during 3 years of operation in Northern Nevada, On Common Ground managed to develop SNAP educational processes that we were able to encode not only in our own marketing, but also through other organizations. And we've basically figured out how to piggyback on addiction recovery programs and prison anti-recidivism programs and a lot of other programs that are happening on the ground to be able to insert and incorporate a nutrition and cooking wellness component that the organizations running those programs themselves can't do internally. And so we've brought that discipline and those measurable results from that SNAP Ed program that we developed over to Regenerative Impact Alliance. And this is happening just in time because if you follow the news, SNAP Ed itself has been dissolved as an agency. It no longer exists across the US. And so now organizations are struggling to figure out, okay, how do we deliver educational information and how do we deliver support down on the ground when a lot of the scaffolding and the foundations that we're used to operating within are starting to, fall apart. And so a lot of what Regenerative Impact Alliance has developed to create is almost a new pathway. Like not necessarily, oh, this is the way measurable things work, and this is the way the nonprofit sector's operated all through, history and in our recent memory. But how do we operate going forward when fundamentals that the sector has been really kind of leaning into for decades and generations are now starting themselves to become uncertain, and we're starting to have to really reach out along, paths that haven't been trodden in a long time, and really lean into what's happening and what's proven around the world and how we can apply that in different situations, different cultures, different lived experiences. And I'm really excited for us to be able to kind of come through and have these conversations, because that's the deep dive that I think as a sector, as a society, we're struggling with, is when the system that we've depended on is starting to fall apart. Like what comes next? What is the next step? What is the first step for many communities? And that's really what this comes down to. This course series that we've developed, this thing that we've done over the last couple of months, has been a really baseline introduction into this is what regeneration is. This is what it looks like on the ground. This is what the use cases that we've been able to establish are, this is what they've been accomplishing around the world. And this is how we can develop an AI strategy and an orientation that empowers anybody that uses these resources to be able to generate their own solutions in their own communities, with their own perspectives, without having to necessarily have us involved. So that's kind of what this session is. That's what this workbench is passing on the tools and creating the opportunity that others can be able to, okay, we've done this. This is how we've done this. This is our lessons learned. This is our successes, and kind of create those commons as we go. And so that's kind of the vision for the future of where we're going with this organization.
Okay. That's a whole lot. Good morning, I think it is still. Um, so I'm Maurice. I was introduced to the group by Cheryl. We mark CSEC together, so that's how I am here. So at this point for me, it is more just listening in, trying to get an understanding of what exactly this entire thing is all about, and to see how best we can help each other. I'm a trained visual arts teacher. Um, just started teaching entrepreneurship recently as well. So, I'm a little bit kind of still developing in terms of how to appreciate AI and using that to help to enhance the teaching learning situation for myself and my students, and possibly anybody else that I get in contact with. So that's me in a nutshell.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Maurice. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for sharing.
So, Maurice, you're in Jamaica. Where would you see RIA fitting in with what's going on over there? There is a unique challenges to that area as well. So we all have unique challenges, but how can we support and create something that bridges us all together?
At this point, I'm still not 100% sure. So
Okay.
I guess as we move through and I understand a little bit more about what's actually happening, then that will be better. Then I will be better able to analyze and figure out where exactly it may just very well help.
Got it. So I have a question for you, and this might sound a little silly, but if I gave you a magic wand and you waved it, which is one problem in your circle or in your environment that you would want to change?
Hmm. Wow.
And it can be anything.
Um, I guess for me right now, uh, it's really finding that bridge that students especially will be able to, let me say it a different way. So it's really putting things in place that will really be able to get our students here especially to be a little bit more involved, a little bit more open to change, and not just change in terms of what they're seeing online and accommodating that, but really finding that bridge to using that to help themselves to build something that will be able to benefit them rather than always soaking up things from elsewhere as sponges.
Mm. And do you think it's something that a conversation would support? Because a lot of students, they have a lot of great ideas, but they never get to fruition because they need somebody like Shannon or Barry or myself or Cheryl to kind of point them and say, let's create this together so they don't feel they're alone.
Um, that's one aspect. I think that is usually the case where they sometimes don't see the way in which persons with information, adults sometimes, quote unquote, will be better able to help them to navigate because they always feel to think that, oh, we were born old, I guess. So sometimes when particular information is shared, they take it the, I'll say the wrong way, feeling to seeming to think that we're always trying to, um, is it no, control. I'll use that word. Always trying to control the narrative and not giving them an opportunity to really express themselves or to explore. But in some sense, as adults, because we have seen, we have gone through, we have done, we have hurt, we have fixed, we have come back from some things, it is really an opportunity to use those experiences that we have had to help them not to go through the same. And so with that, the conversation is really sometimes where instead of waiting on them to come to us, we would have to make or to build that bridge to get to them so that they will understand that it's not just what they are seeing in front of them, but there are others who have gone through this, who have survived it. Some are still navigating their way through it. And as such, it is really to put that out there so that they will realize that they are not alone.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this question, Maurice.
Mhm.
As a trainer, as an educator, would if you were to be able to get a hold of some tools or some strategies or some perspectives that would empower you as an educator to be able to create those bridges for your students, would that be something that would be valuable for you in your world?
At this point, it would be more to enhance my world, really,
Exactly.
because um, from my standpoint, that's kind of the way how I tend to operate. And
Yeah.
so anything I can get, anything that I can learn that I will be able to incorporate into what I do on a daily basis, I usually gravitate to things like that. And with the help of others, sometimes it is things that I may find on my own. Other things like something that I was introduced to by Cheryl just last week would be something that with people who have the knowledge will be better able to help me, so I'll be better able to help them. So yeah, it
Yeah.
most definitely will be something that will help to enhance, depending on what it is. It may just very well be something new, and so it might be like this entire thing right now. For me, is really just navigating, understanding, and then from there, with the help of the individuals online, um, I'll be better able to fit it in or, really navigate through it and build something out of it that will be able to assist me and them to move forward. And probably others, depending on what is learned and how best it will be able to fit in the situation overall.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So what we have right now is something. So Barry and Raksha and I have done essentially this training a couple of times now. So last week we were in here and we were introducing this strategy that I've got in a QR code behind my head, and we were basically walking people through the process of understanding what tool that we presented. But neither of you were there. So if you guys are amenable, I'd love to take this opportunity to really kind of break down what exactly that we're sharing and what we're doing from an educator perspective. Would you guys be willing to do that? Would you be interested?
If you can do it briefly, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's why we're here today. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're here to teach and share, right?
Fantastic. Yeah, and this is the Q&A session, but we do want to focus on the AI course that we presented and the module that we presented. So I'm hoping that we can really kind of laser in on that. And this is, I just pulled up the page that we developed. So I want to share a screen real quick. And I want to focus your attention on the web page, which is shannondobbs.com notebook-primer. The reason why this information is going up on my domain and my kind of named website and not on Regenerative Impact Alliance is because this is still my IP. This is, I developed this, et cetera. And so I'm pushing this through Regenerative Impact Alliance, and this becomes an educational tool that RIA can share with others around the world through the 501c3, through the nonprofit strategy. If you try to get away from this page, it's going to give you a little note at the end that says, hey, this is the Notebook LM class that I took 3 years ago from a guy who runs a business called Whitebeard Strategies. And so this is a little like link that you can go get it yourself and you can catch the replay for 20 bucks. And you can literally take the course that I learned how to access Notebook LM from a couple of years ago. But you don't need that because in 15 minutes, you can become an expert yourself. And so what, just as a background real quick, Google created a bunch of AI processes that are tied to your Google account. So everybody on the planet that has a Google account has access to these tools. If you have a nonprofit organization, you additionally get access to the pro version of these tools, which gives you more capacity, more tools, more things to do. And that includes educators a lot of times. You can order this stuff through your school and get access. A lot of what we do is helping people to understand what the difference between a free and a paid account is and how to be able to get resources if maybe you're in a situation where you can't personally afford it by going through local organizations and really creating that process. But this particular tool was originally developed for college students as a study aid. And the entrepreneurial community found out about it maybe a year and a half ago, and it's been blowing up over on that world. But a lot of educators are struggling to see, like, how is this useful to me? And how is this useful to my students? So what we created was just a really quick 3-step process. Here's step 1 is go to notebooklm.google.com and open up an account, start a new project. Step 2 is feed it the right material. And so the back end on this is that the AI came out about 3 years ago, if anybody remembers, without an owner's guide. So there's no lesson plan on how to use AI that was developed. We're all figuring this out as we go along. And the companies that created AI, they first started saying, you know, hey, we need to figure out how to do better prompts, and you can figure out how to talk to the computer in a particular way. We're now stepping away from that collectively, and we're starting to work our way towards skills files, which is where we take a lot of prompts and a lot of insights, put them into a single document, and then the AI can access that anytime it needs it. What's happening now is a lot of those skill files, instead of being .md skill files, we're putting them up as HTML files, which means websites, because we're learning that AI chews on websites better than it does PDFs. Okay, so that's kind of the backstory about how we got here. And what these particular websites that I'm sharing are focused on supporting people in understanding, like, this is regenerative strategy developed. It's a 157-page book that I wrote to reorient your AI towards regenerative strategy and towards strategy and systems thinking generally. And so this is a very powerful tool, and this is the methodology that I'm using to share this tool with others. It's also a way to show people this is how you put context into your AI. And what's really interesting from an educator perspective is that your course syllabus at the beginning of your class is a context map for your class. And so if you put that as a source into Notebook LM and then show the students how to develop their own context and how to create their own map of their portion of it, then they get to create a pathway forward where they're using this with their own terms of service, their own agreement with the company, and you basically put your course in as a source material, and then you're able to iterate from there. And they can create videos, they can create lesson plans, quizzes, study guides, all kinds of things from this tool. And so it becomes a powerful train the trainer approach for educators to basically teach the students, this is what's already available with your free Google account. And this is how you can kind of get your first steps in without dictating to the students what it is that you're trying to teach them. So that to me, that bridges that kind of desire that you're talking about, Maurice, of how do we get students involved and engaged in understanding what's available and what's possible without shoving stuff down their throat. And again, I'm not an educator, so I'm not necessarily coming from that perspective, but I'm very interested to see your perspective on kind of how we develop this and what's possible through it. And by the way, I'm kind of a fire hose generally, so apologies in advance. Cheryl, you got any input on that?
I have been using it, and that's why I introduced it to them last week. And I even use it at my school. And one of my teachers' comments was, "What kind of sorcery is this?"
Yeah.
Because of particular interest would have been the I am conflicted, would have been the podcast and the ability to ask questions. Right? So I have an important call I need to take.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. And this is a conflict too, because a lot of educational institutions are struggling with this very question right now. You know, how much governance, how much control do we want over information? What do we want students to use? Some schools are grappling with the reality and the realization that AI isn't necessarily just, you know, your Anthropic account and your Chat GPT. It's also local open source AIs that fit on a student's phone. It's also you know, open weight AI. It's so many different directions that people can go into. And something like this can only ever scratch the surface. This is really your casual user. I'm a little maybe afraid of AI, and I'm not entirely sure what the first step is type of step. You know, and if I find interest, you know, I'd love to be able to get into it with educators about, you know, some of the deeper stuff that we can get involved with, like advanced video editing and you know, voice replication and so many different things that you can now reach because some folks took the time to create open source pathways, you know, ways to get a hold of agentic capacity that don't go through a corporation necessarily. And so those are some conversations that we need to have as well, is that that's a reality. That's part of what got released. That's part of what's being developed right now. And it's a whole conversation that you generally don't hear about in the news because it's not corporate focused. It's not, you know, kind of business or you know, that sort of world focused. And that's a lot of what we're doing with the Regenerative Impact Alliance is kind of reorienting and changing the perspective over so that movement builders and people that aren't necessarily in the productivity space can also have an entry point and can also have a way to be able to, oh, this is me that we're talking about now.
Okay. So I hear where you're coming from, Shannon, completely. But I also heard a couple of things that you may not have noticed. Um, when Maurice was explaining his challenges, it was about the adult or the older generation coming from their past of what their experience has been and trying to influence the younger generation feeling like they're not being heard. And then it's the red tape, right? There's a lot of bureaucracy in education that holds people back. And then Cheryl mentioned a word that it kind of took me off guard. She used the word, what is this sorcery? So there's
What's
still,
history is this? Yes.
yeah, so there is this mindset that this is, it's a mindset issue, that this is not a good thing. And in order for us to transform somebody's mindset, it is not to tell them how amazing it is, but to support them in self-discovery as to how amazing this can be, right? Because a lot of it is fear grounded. And this has come up in another realm in my life.
Yeah.
And it came up last week when I was teaching mindset work on the YEA program that you know I'm a part of, right? And predominantly our students are from the continent of Africa. You know, we're in 85 countries, and most of these are third world countries. And this is a challenge. They do see AI as some kind of not a good magic. It's not evil, but it's not good. And they don't realize that it's not magic. It's a systems thing. And the one thing I've learned over the last 5 years working with the people on that continent is it's got nothing to do with what they don't, what's it got to, it's got to do a lot more with what they have access to than how they perceive it, right? Because there's a lot of sanctions and stuff. Now we're going into this political realm where this information and this education is kept from them. It's not shared openly. And I think that's where the resistance comes, is the older generation is still coming from that colonialism mindset. And then the younger generation is trying to fight it. And once we build that bridge, because amazingly, I mean, I've got people coming out of Ghana, Nigeria, Chad, providing VA services now over here. And they are freaking fantastic because they have understood that this is not sorcery. This is a system that needs to be run the right way. So that's what I was hearing when I heard all three of you speak. Is like it's a common challenge, and I didn't even realize I was facing that challenge last week until you guys just had this conversation.
I need to respond to part of what you said, because the idea that AI is being kept from us, that's a marketing strategy. It's not true. It's not true. AI is not being kept from us. And matter of fact, Meta, which everybody loves to hate on Meta, and Meta was the ones that broke the mold and made the business decision 2.5, almost 3 years ago, to release their entire AI as open source. Okay. And hang on, let me just lay this out real quick, because this is something that there's a huge, massive misunderstanding. And a lot of it is because everybody's just so used to shaking their fist at corporations that and again, this went under the radar. Not a lot of people are reporting on it. You really kind of have to go to, know where to look to understand what is actually happening. But AI is loose in the wild. Pandora's box is open. Open source is really a thing. Chinese DeepSeek, and we came out with, what is it, 520? I can't remember the number, but they just rivaled Fable to the point where Anthropic was forced to put Fable back on the market as actually part of your account now. So there's a lot of like you said, there's a lot of political stuff going on. But on the AI side, the actual capacity, there's a really easy way to introduce this that just kind of cuts through all the BS. 3 years ago, computer engineers finally figured out how to program computers to where they could understand us in our native language, to where we didn't have to learn a special coding language in order to interact with them. That's the shift. That's the only shift. Computers are still doing the same thing they've always done, except now I can talk to it in English using my little whisper flow, and it'll understand my prompt, and it'll say, yeah, boss, I'm on it, and it'll go do the thing. So there's no sorcery involved. It's the same computers we've been developing, the same ones my dad was programming in the Air Force back in the 60s with punch cards. We're talking about the exact same technology. The only difference is that now we don't need gatekeepers, people with specialized knowledge about computer programming languages, in order to do the things that we need to do in our worlds anymore. The gatekeeper sector completely is collapsing. All the people that have been positioning between communities and the stuff that they've been trying to do are now unnecessary, or rapidly becoming unnecessary. And so what Notebook LM actually is one example of a tool that gives communities their voice. And it gives their communities their voice in video, in audio. Like when you can get two AIs arguing with each other about different aspects of your ideas in front of people, that is a channel where that's an educational delivery channel. And so what this is it's giving educators an opportunity to be able to use new tools in order to be able to do very, very old things in different ways. And what we're seeing because of social media is this splintering, this fracturing, where everybody's talking about everything all the time. And so what Regenerative Impact Alliance is positioning to do is curate all of that crazy into an aligned strategy and a pathway where our educators can take the tools that they need in order to be able to do the groundwork they need to do. But the shift itself, like there's no sorcery involved. I don't know video editing. I'm not great at video editing, but that doesn't mean that video editing is magic. And now I can go talk to Claude Code and I can say, hey, I need to edit this video. And we're going to bring in a Higgs-field skill and we're going to download hyperframes. And we're going to go through this process of all of these different people that are creating all kinds of cool shit all over the world. And we're going to show people how to put this together. You know, we've got another module coming in that's specifically focused on computer engineers and token maxing, and the realization that corporations are just shoving resources as fast as they can out the door. And that's what is causing the data center pressure. So a lot of what we're going to be teaching is how do you make decisions in your corporation to not token max? How do you create contextual maps in there so that you can get sharper responses and you can reduce your overload? Like these are all conversations that need to happen. And it's not all focused on educators. But the impact is everywhere, and everybody is touching and is affected by this. And here's the grim reality. Because I like positive mental states as much as the next person. But this is fire. AI is fire. And the corporations are racing to see who gets to control the narrative in this. So we as communities can either sit back and watch this happen, or we can start figuring this out and figuring out how to use this fire in our communities. Sorry, that's a little my fire coming out. It's like, there's a reason why this stuff is being presented. Is like, this is really important basic stuff for us to understand.
And I see your
And if
passion.
we're afraid of it and if we're stepping away from it, you know, because I mean, there's an argument. There's a real argument here that a lot of this stuff was stolen. There's a real argument here, and I appreciate it coming from artists, especially. You know, a lot of people are feeling a certain kind of way about this, and I get it. And it's justified, and we need to have these conversations too. But we can't just walk away from the conversations because we don't like the fire.
No, it's not about walking away from the conversations. It's about being able to see the other person's perspective as well as their challenges.
Yeah.
And in many cases, believe it or not, in the US, we are very blessed. We have access to a lot of things that other people don't. Even in developed countries, even in Europe, they don't have the freedom or the access to a lot of things that we have access to because their governments hold it back from them, right? But again, everything changes in a conversation. I truly believe that when the right conversations are had enough times with the right people, things do shift, right?
Well said.
And that's where I want to take this. This is what I do. I facilitate, right? This is who I am. I want to know people's problems so I can look and see where we can find the solution to do that. And believe it or not, Shannon, there is a huge generational gap when it comes to AI and how to use it and how to implement it. I feel once we build the bridge between the generations, that will automatically clean up. There's a wonderful project in Denmark where they're using retired people to teach life skills. And then they're using the younger generation to teach the retired people the tech skills. And they're building that bridge in that manner. So for me, that's like an ideal project. These are kids coming out of foster care that are working with retired people that live in homes and stuff. Um, and looking at that, that is what inspires me to create this bridge between generations because we've become isolated communities. We've honestly, I love AI for everything it can do for me, but it has also created an isolation. And there are people out there. So it's not just about what's available to us and how we use it, but there's a human factor that gets overlooked sometimes. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Well, you touched on something, you know, and Shannon as well. If we go back to what Maurice was sharing earlier, and his specific challenge working with students in Jamaica, what would it look like if, and I'm throwing in RIA as part of the solution now, students in his care and students in say Cheryl, for example, an educator here in Trinidad. So across the Caribbean, north and south, coming into a space like RIA, our membership space,
Mhm.
where Maurice is taking, because he's just been introduced last week to Notebook LM. So as he goes along his learning curve, he starts to produce the content that carries the message that he would want shared and puts it in a space like the RIA's membership. And students in Jamaica and students in Trinidad are conversing and sharing and interrogating that content. It could be the art, it could be the entrepreneurial training that he's now been given charge of, whether it's on syllabus or it's off book. What would it look like if these students now, rather than interacting primarily with a talking head or a group of talking heads, but they're just interacting with the
Right.
system generated content
I
and
think,
they're building together, they're figuring things out together. And the teachers, the seniors, the educators, the more experienced of us, we're there as advisors when called upon.
yeah,
We're not controlling the narrative. We're just facilitating the conversation.
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think Barry, I've discussed this with you. Shannon, I haven't discussed it with you, but I run a conversations group here at a local Nobles and Bonds. It's a bookstore um,
Mhm.
where we get together Saturday afternoons for 3 hours. Every public is invited, and they pick cards and they have to talk about it. The reason I facilitated that format is the cards force them to talk about a subject they would not normally want to talk about. And then things come out, right? Usually I get a group of about 12 to 15 people that are in there. And the intention behind that conversations group was to get people to talk to each other because we don't talk to each other. We live next door, we don't know who our neighbor is. We work, we really don't know who we're working with. And this was just a way for me to get into the social world again and have real conversations with people. What I've found is nobody wants to really say what they want to say because of political correctness. But I'm blessed to live in a town that houses University of Miami and the people that go there. And a lot of my people are coming from there. Um, but now they're actually having those conversations, and I'm seeing gradually where the attendance is increasing because they're bringing a friend along. And what you said, Barry, is perfect for the Caribbean region. If we can facilitate something like this, um, bi-weekly or even once a month or something, if it's too much. I would like to see it happen every week. But where students come in and they're sharing their mindsets, we're just advisors. We're not here to tell them take this path or that path. Um, but it builds bridges between the islands. Culturally, they have a lot of commonality, but there's also still a lot of difference. Um, I think it will open up doors that we didn't not think were there, especially when it comes to sustainability. And then we can take it global, right? This is something very similar to what I do with the Accelerator. It's a 10-week leadership program for youth in Latin America. And we have 5 countries. We have youth from 5 countries that we mix them to have conversations and build their leadership skills. So I'm seeing that, I'm seeing what I'm doing in Africa, and then I'm like, this is my calling. My calling is to build bridges. Um, and I think Shannon hit a really good thing through the education that his methodology and his system can provide for people. There's so much access. What I'm noticing is the data restrictions from the different continents, right?
What does that mean?
Pardon?
So what does that mean?
That means that they don't always have access to technology the way they should.
Can you give
Um,
me an example?
okay, so the
That's the
youth,
second time I've heard that in the conversation. I'm curious what you guys are talking about.
yeah, so the youth in Latin America, They participate in this 10-week course through other nonprofits, but they're usually either at a center, which becomes their hub, and participate from there, and they go there for the 10 weeks, or they're using their parents' phone. And over there, it's a data system. They have phone, but they have to buy a certain amount of data in order for them to use the phone. And once that data is gone, that impacts their budget financially, right? The same thing in Africa. I have students who will use one person's phone to participate in a classroom, and then they'll rotate as to whose data gets used. So that is a huge thing. But then I've got people in the Philippines who don't have that issue. It's limitless, like it's here. You know, you pay for a phone plan, and your data is included in it. And it's literally,
Right.
there's no limit to it. But I'm finding that there are countries where this is a real issue. Their phones only allow them to have access to X amount of minutes, or their
all right, so,
internet only has certain bandwidth.
Yeah, yeah, you're talking not about data restrictions. So the way that it came out, it sounded like you're talking about like certain countries aren't allowed access to certain types of data. But
all right, so Shannon,
what you're talking about is infrastructure, right? You're
Yeah,
talking about not having the Wi-Fi, not having the power, not having the reliable access to the internet
yeah,
and to be able to download the information. So
right.
that's the connectivity side. So this course is the software side of RIA, but our hardware side is the conversation that we've been having about how do we solve for that? How do we solve for that in Sori Village in Kenya, where they're in a rural village on the side of Lake Victoria, and they don't have reliable access to power or water or Wi-Fi or any of these things. And we've got operators on the ground that are constantly dropping calls right in the middle of a strategy session. How do we deal with the disability resource group in Kakuma refugee camp that's struggling to be able to develop a building for disability resources? And again, they can't even stay on a strategy call with global groups that are working to try and support them. So yeah, the infrastructure is the key. But here's the thing. The mobile service isn't the only way to get that internet. It is a great way to get the internet if you get the right plan. And if you identify an operator on the ground and you get a certain plan, and then you get a Wi-Fi attractor with an increase with an amplifier, you can create a system where 20 or 30 or 40 people can get on the internet at the same time. So creating these mobile hubs and these solutions where you can start basically bypassing the unreliable grid, that becomes the kind of the developing nation approach to being able to create the same level of stability that we've got out here in the Western nations.
all right, so to add to what she had said, uh, it's not just that, because there are some aspects of it that I've seen and I've encountered, probably not with this, but maybe other things where you will have a country or region restriction. And so with
Mhm.
this whole thing, what I'm looking for, it, even though it doesn't seem to be that way, but just putting it out there nevertheless,
Yeah,
is that once it comes across, when it comes on to accessing certain type of data, there may just very well be that type of situation. I've had that problem with certain things that I've tried to access from before, where I'm being told that because of the region that I am located in, I will not be able to be granted certain access to this particular information.
Yeah.
And so for me, some of the times what I may have to do, depending on what it is that I'm looking for, I may have to access a VPN, for example, or
Mhm.
maybe even with the VPN, sometimes that still comes as
yeah,
a problem, and maybe having to search through other things in order to get the information that I need.
yeah,
Some of it also is that you run into another type of roadblock where you are now being asked for either to sign up or to pay to access particular services. And so, with this entire thing that we're exploring, what I would want, if that's not something that has been considered, is
yeah.
to
No,
put
it's
that on the table
absolutely.
to make sure that that does not become a challenge for persons who are participating in what we're doing.
Yeah. So the reason why we focused on Google specifically is because other than I've got it up on my other screen. other than mainland China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Syria, Hong Kong, and Macau, there are zero restrictions for Google anywhere on the planet. Their services in 230 different countries. If you have a Google account, you have access to this tool. Like that's literally why we chose this pathway. So yeah, I get where you're coming from, and like that, it's a very important part. Like some countries don't have access to certain technologies, so we've got to find that universal pathway. Like, what's the first step that's available for literally everyone, or 99% of the planet, and then how do we break down from there? Okay, so there's some specific issues maybe in Jamaica for this type of technology that we're going through and exploring this time, but this is like the baseline foundation that we can kind of work from. 100%.
And so if we come back to um, how we can use, because the session before we were kind of focusing on Notebook LM. So for Maurice's challenge, um, it may be as simple as starting with his Notebook account, his Google account, registering the Notebook account, start uploading his primary syllabus for, I guess, here in secondary school, right, Maurice?
Yeah.
Right. So that primary syllabus that you have, it can also, if the work you're doing in entrepreneurship for young people, for students, for school students, is part of the government syllabus, upload that as well. But if it's something that you're doing outside of the quote unquote education system, then that is something that you have a little more control over because you're building it yourself. And start to invite the students in your care to the content. And as I was saying earlier, a good place to bring those minds together would be in our membership space, because we make that available at no cost. So you can start facilitating the conversation that your students can have on the content, on your material there, and then start inviting other students from other parts of the Caribbean. And then what Cheryl and Raksha was saying earlier, it's just a matter of uh, formally creating a a cadence for sessions where the groups get, and it could be virtual, a Zoom or Google Meet, they come together and they chop it up. After texting and emailing back and forth within the membership space, they can now start having meetings and building together. And other thought leaders, other impact makers can now start engaging. They can be invited or they can submit. I'd be happy to submit some material to aid your efforts, especially in the entrepreneurship arena. And I think that could be one way. The only restriction I've seen so far using Notebook LM here in Trinidad is that there is one feature that Shannon and Raksha have in terms of video creation, a theme that they have. I think it's a cinematic theme that I don't have access to here in Trinidad. But apart from that, the experience is the same. So there's enough for you to get started. And we'd be more than happy, we'd be more than willing to get you off to the races, as it were, through our membership space so that you can start using the knowledge you're gaining on Notebook LM and then deploying that tool to enable and empower your students.
Yeah, understood. I have already tried getting the syllabus on and having it break it down. So at this point, it's really just to navigate through it a little bit more to really figure it out, and utilizing the other tools that I have seen with it to get all of that balanced out together. So yeah, it's working so far.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about this workbench is that it's going to help you with the learning curve. You turn up to the other sessions. Now, this we chatted up a bit because this is our Q&A, but we have formal teaching sessions where we actually go ahead and really break things down. So stick. I guess the point of making is stick with us and stick with the workbench brought to you by RIA, and it's going to help you in your journey.
I have a challenge.
Let's hear it.
Maurice, are you interested in potentially getting involved with a challenge? Because I have a challenge. I think it'd be fun. All right, so
Okay.
I'll share my screen real quick. And I want to show you guys what the actual regenerative gem that I created is. Because it's a retrainer. It trains your AI to see what institutions miss. It's got proven coordination patterns. It's got 3 separate analytical lenses. It's got a protocol that generates immediate action from any situation, and it's written and designed to be loaded into any AI system. This is written for regenerative practitioners, municipal employees, community organizers, foundation officers, and AI developers and researchers. What it is not written for is educators. What I would like to do is come back next month. If you guys are interested in kind of collaborating with me back and forth, I've already got Cheryl on our team, but I don't have you on our team yet, Maurice. And I'd like to ask you if you'd be interested in joining us in creating a regenerative gem that's focused specifically on educator capacities and needs. Something that is like the document that I've already created, the similar depth to like that level of granularity, that level of capacity, but specifically for you guys. Would you be down with co-creating that with me?
Yeah, I'll take the chance.
Okay. How about you, Cheryl? All right, we got thumbs up. All right, so this is what our strategy is going to be for next month then. So our regenerative workbench is the 3rd Wednesday of every month. And then this Q&A session today is the 4th Wednesday of every month. So next Wednesday, or next 3rd Wednesday in August, we're going to get together and we're going to showcase a brand new regenerative gem that doesn't exist right now. And between now and then, if you leave your contact information in the chat, let's go back and forth with a couple iterations. I'd like to get your feedback, your input. I'm going to interview you as educators, and I want you to turn around and interview me right back. And let's have this collaborative kind of conversation back and forth. Let's treat it like a challenge. Let's have fun with it. And then we come back next month and let's see what it looks like. Sound fun?
Definitely.
Go for it.
Cool. I like that. Because it's either that or we bounce around from topic to topic. And this, like getting deeper into this and really diving into what this means for your sector specifically. Because the educators, this is the key demographic right here is educators. If we can get it to the point where we're giving something that's real value specifically for educators to be able to support their student population, we win. Like that's the brass ring. So that's and I don't have that around me to iterate from. So if you guys can, we'll collaborate with me. Let's make it happen. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, we're on a mission.
Yes.
You're darn right we're on a mission. No, and that's where we're at is we're finding out what works. We're creating and we're bringing back and we're saying, hey, this is what we're finding out here in the real world. This is what we learned from this group. This is what we learned from this other group, and we're creating and building. And I want everybody to take, if you haven't done it yet, go on to ria.earth and also go on shannondobbs.com and start looking at really what we're developing, because this is an entire constellation. These web pages we're dealing with are focused on insurance, mitigation and watershed scale regeneration. It's focused on how to cook when you don't have a functional kitchen. It's focused on wildland fire defense. It's focused on restoring degraded soil in island nations. Like we're having conversations with business owners in Trinidad right now about how to incorporate strategies that are working around the world in that country, and using that as opportunities to be able to align major funders and be able to move forward towards real infrastructure improvement. So again, we're not just focused on education. We're really focused on the infrastructure. We're focused on that reliable Wi-Fi grid. We're focused on that reliable power access so that we can keep those conversations going and ultimately create the rails so that funders can find those programs and those operators on the ground. That's a big, big part of this. So the educator pathway is huge. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I want to ask, um, on behalf of another educator from Jamaica. He's running a drone camp. Because they just recently came out of Melissa, and that part of the island, they're still recovering.
Oh yeah.
And he's looking at hosting a drones operation training camp in December, and looking for sponsors, anybody that can help, content, support, cash or kind of thing. So I don't know how RIA could assist there in making connections.
So I don't know that we can necessarily assist with connections on that, but what we can assist with is grant writing, identifying funding sources, identifying connections on the ground that are operating. There might be groups, like different groups. So here's a really good example I want to bring to the conversation. So 2017, Hurricane Maria came through and flattened Puerto Rico. Y'all remember that?
Mhm.
Okay, so when that happened, there was an organization called World Central Kitchen, and they came out and started providing disaster relief because Chef Jose Andres is a chef in Puerto Rico, or from Puerto Rico, and he's got huge connections out there. So he's like, I'm going to go help the island, and he flew out there and just started making a difference. FEMA shut the door on him. FEMA would not let him be in part of the conversations, wouldn't let him support, wouldn't let him help. So he said, all right, bet. He went around to the back of the building, found an open kitchen door, because there's always an open kitchen door in the back of the building somewhere, which is kind of the point of a lot of what I bring to the table. And he got inside and started talking with the operational leads. Then he started making phone calls around the island, started activating local kitchens that were able to be able to cook with gas, started negotiating, hey, who's got the gas around the island, started getting food cooked, started getting it distributed around there. And by the end of the whole situation, he fed the island over 4 million meals, while FEMA was still shuffling paperwork and trying to figure out where they were going to start getting their fingernails under the tarp of solving these challenges. So when we're walking in and we're sharing these situations, a lot of what your folks on the ground need is access to an understanding of what happened in 2017 and how they solved these challenges and how they addressed it and what they developed going forward. So first and foremost, I would recommend you reach out. If nobody's done it yet, reach out to World Central Kitchen and let them know that, somebody in your group read Chef Jose Andres' book. And we're building the proactive version of that's going to happen before disasters, but we're not there yet. But you guys, there's proven solutions of how do we address this stuff. There's also proven strategies for what do we do with all this flattened trees and the buildings and the fires and the flooding and all the crazy stuff that's happening because of this hurricane. There's proven strategies about what to do with that. There's chances are the government down there has not heard of these things, or they're not passing through the official channels. So a lot of what we can do is really provide that pathways of continuity and understanding of this is what's happening elsewhere in the world. This is what, and so I would be honored to, kind of help and support in any way I can. And the more details and the more information I get, the more I can provide back as here's the pathway, here's the strategy. And again, going back to what we're doing, this regenerative gem is designed to stick into your AI so that it can have these conversations with people on the ground to start having these same kind of strategic frameworks and strategies going forward, which is why this is not just for educators, it's also for disaster relief. It's also for really any group that's looking for the frameworks for looking at problems from a strategic mentality and perspective. I don't mean to take over the conversation. I get excited because I'm we can absolutely help.
Thank you.
100%. I can find you, because that's the other thing is where are all the buckets? Where's the money sitting and what organizations are sitting on it, and how do we connect those with people on the ground? How do we connect the logistics? Those types of strategies is things that organizations have been doing for a long time, but there's no guarantee that those organizations are connected with the folks on the ground yet. So we need to make sure that happens. Getting into my tactical mode here. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Good job, guys.
Yeah. And this has been a great session because we're really kind of not just sticking on like AI, we're also moving into like all the things that it touches, and we're moving into the other things that Regenerative Impact Alliance is focused on and positioned to do. And I love that.
Right. So, I will say I do take our discussions off what we're supposed to be on, and they usually come right back to where we're supposed to be. Because it's just problems we don't see, There's challenges out there and there's a solution. And like I said earlier, we can sort them all out in a conversation. That was a plug for my group.
What's the next step? What's the first step? It's my favorite thing. Favorite question.
Well, I've already started. I'm working on creating a list of the 23 CARICOM islands, which include Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, Bahamas, and the Guyana. And I'm asking my trusted AI to go get me some contact information so I can draft emails and start sending them out, inviting other educators to join us for next month's workbench on the 19th of August, where we will be discussing this. And my request to Cheryl and Maurice is invite other educators that you know to that session. It is a 90-minute session. Come with their ideas, come with their questions. If we pull together, we will come up with a solution, right? I don't know everything, but together we know it all. So that's the principle I will take, is I know nothing by myself, but together I know everything. But yeah, I'm looking forward to August 19th now. And just start reaching out to any educator that you know. And this actually, even for you, Barry, an educator is not just somebody who is in the school system. An educator is somebody who wants to see their community grow and expand. So if there's anybody, Barry, Shannon, Maurice, Cheryl, in your field of influence that does stuff like this, invite them. Who knows? We might introduce them to something that they didn't know before. Right?
You just gave me an interesting idea because you're talking about Barry.
What
if in September we create a third regenerative gem that's focused on entrepreneurs? And what if we kind of continue? Because here's the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm going to take the opportunity to plug Camp Synthesis at the Gathering in October. So from the 12th to the 18th of October, I'm going to be in Mendocino, California, representing RIA, and we're going to be recording that week's masterclass or that month's masterclass or that month's workbench at the camp in front of a live audience. And so we're going to be moving towards this over the next 3 months. So I say, if you guys are down to it, let's do the educator focus next month. And then the following month, we're going to have one that's focused specifically on entrepreneurs, but really keep it on the regenerative edge. Like, what does it look like? What does regeneration look like in the entrepreneurial community? I'd be fascinated with that because I spent, a long time as an entrepreneur myself before I got into this whole social justice thing. So we could have that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So right away, let's see if we can get, because Maurice put his email in the chat and I have it in our WhatsApp as well. Let's see if we can get him a link to get registered on our space in the membership space and start.
I can share the flyer with him.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted to, he could print it and post it somewhere in his school or, where his place of business or somebody else's place of business. Because I'm thinking this is also a good opportunity to what we were discussing about Lionel a few days ago, where we reach out to organizations that are investing in education on the islands and invite them and see the work that we're doing and maybe they want to participate. It
Mhm.
just takes one person who's interested to get the
Would
role.
would would you guys be so here's my another question I've got. So
Oh,
Cheryl and Maurice, both of you, would you be potentially interested in moderating a theme space that's focused on art and education? Because you're
Oh,
both
sure.
educators. Yeah.
Oh,
I
sure.
want to be a fly on that wall.
So this is I'm in the process of developing out our Go High Level space, and we're getting our membership space filled out, and we're starting with this course and putting that up. But we're really looking at expanding into themed areas where each of us can kind of go in and moderate that space and kind of be in charge of like this is the way that we want to build this out. So I can create the scaffold and I can create the frame for you guys to get started on, and I'd love to invite you into that space as moderators if you're interested. Maurice,
Yeah.
is that something that's in your wheelhouse?
Uh, I'll take it back from Cheryl. But yeah, I'll definitely. It is a learning space for me, so no problem. Whatever I don't understand or can't get through to, I'll just navigate my way straight with Cheryl to see how we can work it through. She has a lot more experience than me in that area, so it's more. I'll be her second.
100% understood. So what I'm going to do then, if you're in for this experiment, what I'm going to do is invite you. I'm going to take this email address and I'm going to create a RIA email address for you. Are you okay with that? It's going to be like maurice@ria.earth.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to send that invite to you, and then you're basically going to have the key to the RIA kingdom, and you're going to come in here and you're going to be part of our crew, just like on the volunteer side, and just not a paid gig, obviously, but we're basically this is our pathway for getting people on the crew side of it versus the like public facing side. So I'll do that, and I will interface with you shortly. Cool.
Great. That's how it's done.
This is just a giant experiment for me. So this is
Yeah.
like anytime I can get people to play, like, hey, let's let's do some fun stuff. Well, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
All
So
right.
we're
So
hoping next semester, Maurice is going to be all the more equipped to get what he's envisioned into the real world.
I agree.
And that
I agree.
that's going to be a really good use case for Rio doing what it does.
And now that Lionel is retired, we need to reach out to him too and invite him into this space because this is going to be educator corner. This is where
Mhm.
I'm not going to interfere with this space. I'm going to take orders. So it's basically y'all need to let me know what decorations you want on the wall and whatever. Okay.
Right.
All right. Cool. Well, that's
Right.
all I had. Unless you guys wanted to get into dig into the details again, we've got a little bit of time that we can go through some of the stuff that's in here. We can talk about what like other platforms, like Google versus Anthropic versus Notebook LM versus ChatGPT versus whatever. Like we can have that conversation.
So we have 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go, I would like to take the last couple of minutes for closing.
Okay.
But go for it.
Mhm.
All right. I'm going to take a couple of minutes and just talk about platforms then, if I can. Because we briefly mentioned the idea that there is open source out in the world. We don't get nearly enough discussions about that. But what we can do is at the very least, we can start with the platforms that most people are familiar with. So you got your Notebook LM, that's Gemini, which is a Google product. We got Claude, which is an Anthropic product. ChatGPT is OpenAI, I think, and then
Yeah.
Gemini really is the same thing. And then you've also got Grok, and there's a couple other options out there too. I didn't include everything that's available. None of these are all paid accounts, and so I got my start in through about 3 years ago with Anthropic when they got released. It was just a little bit after OpenAI, and what was really interesting is that I was looking for a way to write my third book. And so I took my first two books and I shoved them into this giant context window that Anthropic had created. They had open 80,000 characters versus OpenAI's 3. And so I was able to look at that and like, oh, hey, I can shove both of my books in there. I was able to write out a whole book and just kind of synthesize the whole thing. And I came out with a product and it took me just a few weeks to finish, as opposed to my first book that took a year and a half and wasn't that great. So being able being able to do your creative stuff and being able to just find the right tool for that is an important component. But again, understanding that context, because I got lucky and I went the path that I went, I immediately put a deep amount of information about myself, my background, my history, my goals, my dreams, everything like that into the AI. And that ended up getting me kind of kickstarted into understanding like how to operate AI at a higher level and a higher order of potential. And so what we've been talking about with the skills files, maybe that's something that we need to get into next month as well, so that people understand like what those files do, how they get positioned, and ultimately, whether you have to drop in a PDF every time you start a new chat, or whether you have a paid account where it's permanently embedded into your system. Those are kind of personal choices. And that's about all we have time for.
Okay.
Short and sweet. Cool. Raksha, take us out.
Really? That's your job. I'll take us out. So this has been interesting. This has been a really good session. Um, I'm not going to apologize because we came out with a wonderful program out of my going off track and talking about other different things. But that is what I do, and that is my talent, to get us back on the track that we need to be, and it works just perfectly. While you were all talking about the teachers and educators and connecting with them, I had an amazing download of we will have our Caribbean region covered by the end of next quarter. It means a lot of outreach, a lot of work and stuff, but once I know who I need to call, I know how to be annoying enough for them to give me at least 2 minutes of their time. So I'm taking that on. I'm actually very excited. Maurice, thank you for coming. Thank you for using your magic wand, because it was your magic wand that created the program that we just created. So that's it for me, really. I love that magic wand thing. I use it all the time with people I speak to. Well, how can you make a difference if you had a magic wand? What would you do with it?
I got a friend that has one tattooed on the inside of her finger so she can bippity boppity boo anytime she wants.
Hey, it creates miracles, right? So my challenge is just ask one person in your circle. If they had a magic wand, what would they create for themselves? But have an amazing time till we meet August 19th to take us to the next level. I'm very excited for our journey. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and for our viewing audience, thank you for taking in this our first Q&A for the Workbench, the Regenerative Workbench, brought to you by the Regenerative Impact Alliance. We're going to be back on August 19th, and we really invite you to connect with us. Those that are receiving the recording, you're going to get some information on how to do just that. But stay tuned and take this journey with us, and let us really change the face of this planet by building together. Thank you for joining us.
Cheryl, last words.
I'm glad to be a part of this and looking forward to others joining our movement.
Absolutely. Maurice, thank you for coming. And on that note, I am going to stop recording.